Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Good morning, this is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. I'm with Alan Cochrane and Emily Dean.
Hi, Frank.
Hello. And if you want to text, I'll get the text in early, shall I?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
You can text us on 81215. Why don't you start for a change? Why is it always us that has to come up with something to talk about?
Don't antagonise them this early on.
Hey, speaking, I watched the Hairy Bikers the other night.
I like the Hairy
Have you ever seen the Hairy?
Bikers.
You like them?
I've got a soft spot for them. Yeah.
My entire watching experience was spoilt by the fact that I was thinking, shouldn't they have to have some sort of bonnets on?
Bonnet?
Are you allowed to be that hairy over food?
Like a beard net.
I had a real awareness of the bits of horrible hair getting in. They were making like a bread thing.
Yeah. But then
Oh, is that what they
like...
do? Do they cook? I thought they just went round on bikes.
No, they do cook.
I didn't know they had a
do.
job.
Well, they shouldn't
I
cook.
like them.
They should not be allowed in any kind of catering establishment.
But surely if
completely uncovered.
Even as customers.
If they wear bonnets and like those beard masks, they'll look like politicians that have been forced to go to a factory, you know, that way.
Yeah, but that's... I don't want hairy bikers literally in my food.
Hairy biker pie, you don't want that.
I could see... I couldn't see it falling, but I had a sense.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
There'll be collateral
I
damage.
don't think... I'm really amazed that that's allowed to happen.
It's television. Much more risky things happen. Have you seen Wipeout? That's really dangerous.
Well, I would rather fall off a big ball than eat something that's got the cuticle of a hairy biker attached to it. Imagine it. Anyway.
I never knew they cooked. Well, I never.
They're leaning over food with their
Do they keep
terrible
leather
hairy
jackets
faces.
on and things?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, it's in a kitchen.
And
Disgusting.
well, no, they're often outdoors. They often cook
outdoors?
yeah, so when the wind gets in that bit, you can imagine that the
Lots of fire
windfall hair. Anyway, that's the hairy bikers. Hairy bikers. There, summed up.
Hairy bikers section of the show.
Speaking of which, I went to a place called Relax. I don't know, I'm having complete word association. I went to a place called Relax.
I don't like where this story's going.
Now, I was meeting my girlfriend there. She was getting her eyebrows done.
Oh,
I don't know
lovely.
what
Threaded?
I don't know what she was getting done.
Threaded or waxed?
I didn't ask.
Okay, I'll find out.
Upturned, I think. Upturned in order to look flame-like.
All right.
No, and it's called Relax. And a woman went in and she said, "Would you like? Are you come for a treatment?" And I thought I could actually say that Frankie's gone to relax for a Hollywood.
Oh God!
It was worth it. I was going to have one just for the remark, but I thought I'll do the remark anyway, as if it's something that might have been, rather than actually have to have it done.
Yeah, I don't recommend the procedure, Frank.
No, what I do for the hairy bikers. I should get their faces Hollywooded.
We've had a text in from 560. I agree with the hairy bikers having to wear beard bonnets. The man in my local Greggs has a hairnet on his face. See?
Well, quite right.
There you go.
Absolutely quite right. To be fair, he's a samurai warrior. They got him in because he's a lovely dicer.
He's very good at chopping.
He does all the vegetables for the pasties. He's dicing with death, we'll say that. I've said it. I want to tell you about an incredible journey I had. I wasn't with two dogs and a cat. If that's what you're thinking.
No.
Do you remember Incredible Journey?
Oh yeah, of course I do. I love that film.
One of the great Disney films. And I, generally speaking, hate Disney films.
That's nice.
All the full-length animations, you know, all the classics. Terrible.
Frank, you can't just say all the classics are terrible.
Yeah, you know, badly drawn, cold-hearted characters, generally. There's no love in them.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, we've been talking about the hairy bikers this morning.
Of course.
Yes, I think it's disgusting and unhygienic that they're allowed in the kitchen without covering their hairiness.
And I didn't even know they were cooks. I thought they were just like the White Power Ranger, like celebrities and just turn up to premieres.
When I say their hairiness, that isn't a thing like Your Highness. Yes, Your Hairiness, please come into my kitchen. It's their actual hirsute faces and upper heads.
We've had lots of texting on 8, 12, 15, though. Re the hairy bikers, haven't we, Alan?
Yes.
We've had...
Did you think he was going to say what one of them was then?
No, I thought he might, but then I thought, I haven't been here for a week, and
I can catch that ball if you throw it. We've had one from Ian Angel, or Angle, however.
I think he's the man who insisted on being called Angel.
I got it wrong last week, so he's put Ian Angel or Angle, however Alan wants to pronounce it.
He's still touchy about it.
Indeed,
a week later.
A week on, you'd think he'd have cooled.
And FYI, Alan's name is spelt with a U, thank you.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
There's no need for Ian Angle to be so obtuse.
He's saying they could do mustachio ice cream for pudding.
Oh!
Ian!
That makes me think of a Laurel and Hardy film. What's the Laurel and Hardy?
Yeah, it's the one when they go
I'll have
into...
mustachio.
Yeah.
We're out.
When he says the one that they don't have is the chocolate, is it?
That's right.
And he asks for chocolate about 4 times. Yeah.
We've had another text in about the hairy bikers.
Soda. And what will you have, Stanley? I'll have a soda. 1 minute, please. Carry on.
A bit of Laurel and Hardy there.
Fresh fish caught in the ocean this morning. Carry on.
How long is this Laurel and Hardy tribute going to go on?
Sadly, I'm guessing which films as well, and I know. How sad am I?
No more Laurel and Hardy this morning.
Okay.
So,
785. When you first said the hairy bikers should be wearing bonnets, I thought you meant to make them look like Victorian ladies. An image I find hilarious.
Yeah, I'd like to see them as Victorian ladies.
They could even go further and talk in high voices. I don't wish to sound sexist, but I thought that's the point you were getting at. Not that I'm saying you're sexist either.
Oh, God, we're so touchy nowadays. I never even thought for a moment...
the joy of a long text, isn't it? That people can talk themselves out of what they were originally texting.
At
and then
no
back
point, when somebody said... The Victorian lady look for the hairy bikers. I didn't think, sexist. I never thought that.
Yeah. Bang out of order.
I just thought, you're having a nice bit of custard, and you think, what's this? Oh, a bit of beard. Disgusting. So, I got in a cab. Actually, I hailed a cab the other day.
Oh, hanging out at Dracula again.
That's what you do with a cab. You hail it, apparently. So I raised my hand, and there was 2 cabs coming down the road, one with the light on and one with the light off. And as you may know, the light off means they're not available. Anyway, the one with the light off stopped, which never happens if they don't have the light on. So that surprised me.
Unless it's Stephen Fry driving it.
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Au contraire. So I got in, and this bloke said, all right, Frank. And I said, I thought, fair enough, London cabbie, that's what they're like. And he said, my name's Tony. I said, all right, nice to meet you. Get lost. And then he said, and then it turned out that do you ever watch a programme called 7 Up?
Oh yeah, one of my favourites.
It's one of the great documentaries of all time, 7 Up. It took a bunch of children when they're 7, and then again when they're 14 and 21, and we followed their lives ever since.
It was before documentaries got rubbish. It was a sort of social experiment.
Yeah, it was based on the old thing, give me a child until he's 7 and I will give you an enormous court case. Yeah, so anyway, we got in the car and he said, yeah, Frank, you'll love this, And he put the music on really loud. I was with my pregnant girlfriend in the back, and he really cranked it off. And he put 3 Lions on, which some of you may know is a song I was somewhat associated with. But it was so loud that people in the street were looking at the cab that was playing 3 Lions so loudly, and I was in it, and it was a bit difficult.
It must have felt like a dream if you were walking past.
Oh, I thought, should I wave?
Yeah.
Is this like,
funny.
Roy Hodgson had just been named England manager. I thought, if this is like the Queen's Jubilee, it's the sort of Roy Hodgson regatta. Here comes the first vehicle in the Roy Hodgson parade. It's Frank Skinner in the... Oh, man.
Adrian Chiles in a car behind.
Car behind, right? And, what... Anyway, so, he was this guy, he was the jockey. I don't know if you watched 7 Up, there was a jockey in it.
He used to say, I want to be a jockey.
Yeah, and then he became a jockey for a bit, and now he's a
cabbie.
Yeah. And, oh my goodness me, it was one of the great cab journeys of my life.
Good.
It was just he played that. Then he played Back Home, the 1970 England, again absolutely full blast. And then he played a very, very loud clip of Max Miller, the
How long were
comedian.
you in this cab for?
Oh, he just drove round and round, really. And
had
then
all
he
this
wouldn't
stuff
take the
just queued
then he
up.
wouldn't take the full fare at the end. He goes, "Nah, give us a tenner, you're all right." It was amazing. And so we listened to Max Miller at the Wood Green Empire in 1937, and then we had to sing along to Max Miller doing a song I've never heard of before called "Be Sincere." Oh man, it's the most Cockney experience I've ever had in my whole life. It was such a Cockney experience, I actually had 2 days in bed with cockle poisoning.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
We were talking about the hairy bikers having their hair out whilst cooking, and 870 has texted in, how about some beard and butter pudding?
Oh.
See, do you know what I like about that? It's exactly the same letters, but all he's done is shuffled one along. Bread and butter pudding,
I think
beard and butter.
yeah.
Very elegant.
Anagram, they call that.
A what? An anagram? Yeah. I thought they just called it a pun, but it's an elegant pun, isn't it?
It's an anagrammatic pun.
Oh, right,
Yes.
okay, good.
I love that little exchange.
Yes.
Ian Angel.
He's back.
Again.
Was that 7-Up bloke still sprightly?
Oh, he's on fire this morning, the angel.
Nice.
Yeah,
Taxi drivers have often got a connection to fame. I had a taxi driver in Manchester that told me that he was on the cusp of being a Bollywood music star.
On the
And
cusp.
He'd been out there several times, and he was a nice bloke and cool, and I've not had him again. So I'm
Do you
assuming.
think he's made it?
I'm assuming he's gone.
And you've not
massively.
heard of him since?
I've not heard of him since.
Not
But
had him
I'm not
again.
that-
How many cab drivers in Manchester are there?
Oh, there's
About
only
9.
about 25. Hey, here's a question. Do you ever take a dislike to a taxi driver and get him to drop you off around the corner from your own home?
No.
Oh, really? I do.
Oh, because you think I don't need to know where I live?
Yeah, I've got a natural suspicion. Sometimes if there's been a bit of tension on the journey, like, you know, if they've said something and I've disagreed with them or said, can you just tell me why there's extras on the fare, please, mate? And like that sort of thing.
Oh, this is what it's coming down to,
I
really,
get a bit,
Frank.
I get a bit like, I think I'll just
the
get
old-
him
It's the old
to drop me on the corner.
Skinflint.
Oh,
Cockerel again.
Skinflint Cockerel.
I'm not a
I love that
Skinflint
album.
cockerel.
Yeah.
it's early
No,
the fall.
I've never done that, but I'll bear it. Often I get in a black cab and they say, "Oh, I know where you live by." They know where I live anyway, so there's
Alright.
not much. I am mentioned on the Duck tour.
Apparently so, yeah.
Do you know, I'm so proud of that.
Thank you.
Makes me well up. Frank, I'd like to talk about... are you familiar with the work of Chris Packham?
Oh God, I've worked with Chris Packham.
I've worked with them all.
CPAC? You've worked with
I've
CPAC?
worked with Six Pack. Yeah, I've worked with him. I like to think we broke him on Room 101. We broke him to a wider audience, apart
Success
from
has many fathers.
the natural history
Oh, yeah.
enthusiasts.
It's not nature. I always call them naturists, but that's something entirely different.
What did you say? You upset many fathers.
And success has many fathers.
Oh, yeah.
There is an orphan.
He might have upset many fathers. I know I have. He's a sort of hunky wildlife presenter, isn't he? But would you
Yeah.
describe him as waistcoat and highlights?
Is he hunky?
Oh yeah, he was very much so. A bit of a pin-up, but he's
He looks like a handsome man, a painting of a handsome man where the paint has dripped a bit on the mouth. It's run a bit on the, just a little bit on the mouth, made it slightly going to one side. Anyway,
anyway.
in the same way as the woman from was it Mad About the Girl? Was that the name of the band? Or Mad About the Boy?
Oh, everything
Everything
the
but
girl,
the girl.
Tracy
Oh,
Thorn,
yeah, yeah.
perhaps.
She looked like a Paul McCartney candle that had been burning for about 3 hours. Anyway,
Oh dear, it's good to be back.
Chris Packham.
Yeah, so CPAC has been talking about foxes. Well, he's got himself into a bit of hot water.
Oh yeah, no, I read about this.
Did you read what he said? He said he doesn't believe, and those were his exact words, in urban fox attacks.
No.
He actually says, as for attacks on humans, I'll be diplomatic. I don't believe it.
Yeah, not that diplomatic, Chris.
I'd love to see him when he's being undiplomatic.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've covered fox attacks on humans on this very programme, if you remember. Remember that woman who said she was in bed or something and a fox
Yes.
came in the bedroom?
Yeah.
And he...
And I said it was my fantasy.
yeah. And he...
All right, we did it in our own tender,
And at the
sensitive
time,
way,
I think we were a bit unsure, but Chris is absolutely the sweeping generalisation. There are no fox attacks on human beings.
Yeah.
Full
I mean,
stop.
he knows about animals.
He does.
He's a straight shooter.
He might be
sheephead.
right, you know. I also think their endorsement of online bingo is a hollow sham. That's what I think.
They might not even be interested in
No,
it.
I think that does.
But they're just doing it for the money.
I should declare an interest here, because you know my love
The
of
bingo?
foxes.
Yes.
You know I love them,
Yes.
especially in a purple waistcoat.
Well, we've got one lives on our underground car park.
Have you?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, hang around your bins. I didn't know that.
Well, I was told that he gets on the bonnets of the car. I say he, I've never got that close, but he gets on the bonnets of the cars after you park your car in the winter, because the bonnet's still warm.
Oh, yeah.
Not the sort of bonnet worn by the hairy bikers. the hood. The hood of the car.
Isn't the English language rich?
Yeah. But from reading that article, it turns out they've got sarcoptic mange, most of the urban foxes, and that's put me off the one in the car park a bit.
It's not an aphrodisiac, let's face it.
I don't like the idea of the sarcoptic mange bobbling like a bowl of minestrone on top of my car.
The new car.
The bacteria bobbling in his veins.
It's going to be a different
Disgusting.
winter for him this year, isn't it?
It is.
I tell you what I liked about this was the idea that he just didn't believe in it. I thought that
just
was a
point
brilliant
blank.
statement to make. I don't believe in it,
Yeah.
like a kid.
No, I think that there is some amazing about her. In the
like
same
it
way
'cause
that I don't believe in Richard Dawkins.
Yeah. It's a nice blend of sort of educated and bloke in pub, like, no, I'm not having that.
Yeah,
Not
but
having it.
he's a very 100% kind of a bloke, Chris Packham. He doesn't have sort of grey area thoughts. He's like one way or the other, and I like him for that. He's a straight talker.
Do you know what I'm not sure I believe in? You know, on the motorway where it says average speed camera, I think that is the modern version of the TV licence detector van.
Yes.
You know, they pretended
Yes.
that they had a detector.
The two blokes playing cards inside.
Yeah.
The small table.
I'm now convinced that they've just gone, people have stopped reacting to speed cameras. They break and then they speed back up again. Why don't we pretend that we can take an average and they'll all
Yes.
drive
You
at
know,
50?
I think you might be right.
I'm convinced of it.
Because I ignore them anyway.
Nobody I know has ever been done for an average speed. Watch this, the switchboard will blab up now with people going, I've got me.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced.
Well, I haven't, and I seldom do less than 95 on the motorway. So make of that what you will.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Frank, we've been talking about Chris Packham saying he didn't believe in urban fox attacks, and then we started talking more about things we don't believe in. What was yours, Al? Speed cameras or something?
Average speed cameras.
Average speed cameras.
Not having it.
You see, I don't believe in dust mites. I just don't believe there's any such thing. It's rubbish.
I think that would have been a beautiful song. I don't believe in dust mites.
No, but they don't. Why don't we know anything about them? It's
I
dust.
don't
They're-
believe in dust mites. Little things in everything we see.
It's a ball of dust. There's no. They haven't got any personality or any distinguishing characteristics.
No.
That's not a creature in there. That's just dust.
And if you don't have a microscope, you basically have to take their word for it.
Exactly,
You
which
know
I
who could
refuse
give
to do.
You know who you could give you the definitive answer on this? Chris Packham. He knows about the animals. He'd be all over
Does
this.
he go that small though?
I don't know. Do you think it's like no job too small?
I think he's got a limit. I think he might go for, let's say, a vole.
Nothing below a vole.
Oh yeah, I'd say yeah. This far and no further.
Bigger than a lion, smaller than a vole. I don't do either of those. I'm
I
right
think
in the middle.
that's his glass ceiling, the vole. That's my view. Daisy, our producer, had a good I don't believe in.
What?
Didn't you, Dave? Daisy, I'm going to speak for Daisy because
Yeah.
she doesn't like to get too close to the microphone, but Daisy doesn't believe that it ever gets warm in an igloo.
I think that's right.
That's probably right, isn't it?
Yes, of course it's
if
right.
you see them in an igloo, when I say I mean the Inuit.
Very good, Frank.
The Inuit, they've still got their furs on often. It's not like they've just got,
You're so
pants and a
right.
You ever
vest.
see footage of them saying to each other, you're not going to feel the benefit of that when you go outside?
Never.
It's never that bit of documentary.
In fact, if
ever.
you
You're so
see
right.
pictures of Inuits talking outside and then pictures of Inuits sitting in an igloo talking, the only difference is the igloo.
You're right,
I
Frank.
sometimes think the igloo's just been painted in.
And when do you ever see them wearing an England supporter 3/4 leg trouser? Doesn't
don't.
happen.
Never. And that hole that they put in the ice, the very, very neat circular hole, it's obviously been
Beautifully shaped.
They obviously have a compass from somewhere, 'cause you couldn't get a circle that good. Why go out if it's nice and warm in the igloo? You could do that in the ice under the igloo. You could have the fish circle in the corner.
Oh,
Yeah, then it's right next to the cooker.
Can I ask you something about Inuits? You may or may not know the answer. Probably not. But do they have, like... we talk about when we get home and we change into our Jimmy Jam sort of slobbing
Yeah.
out gear. Do they have slobbing out Inuit gear? They
It's
must
too cold.
do.
It's too cold in the igloo.
I'm going to put
They
my
put-
comfy furs on.
That's what I mean.
These ones are a bit
No, they don't.
starchy.
Do they
I'm
have
going
the
in the
equivalent
igloo.
of a tracksuit, which is like an Inuit tracksuit?
They get in the igloo and then they have to put another layer on. It's so absolutely freezing, and they're sitting there saying, how much longer are we going to keep up this ridiculous hollow pretense that this operates as some sort of warm, cosy home? When in fact we might as well be outside. What do you think? Nanook. It's the only Inuit name I know.
Frank, I tell you, I was once informed by a matron at school. She said,
I'm not doing it. doing it.
I'm fighting the temptation.
No, I'm not doing it. Carry on.
I mean, people are shouting it at their radio. But
Let them shout.
this was my matron.
Yeah.
And she said, when I said I had a headache and I was about 12, and she said, "You're too young to get headaches, dear." And do you know what? I think she had a point. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that anyone under the age of about 18 is entitled to have a headache or gets a
That's a
headache.
good point, yeah. They can't
Remember-
claim
No
stress
such
or
thing.
caffeine, can they?
We had a bit
Exactly.
of a
They're the big
dispute on
ones.
here once, because I don't believe in fainting. Do you remember that? I honestly don't. I think there's a moment where you think, shall I faint or shall I not? Yeah, go on. You do it. You ham it up a bit. It's like Didier Drogba going down in the penalty area. In the end, it's your decision. I've never fainted, and I never will. I'd like to know what the beautiful listeners don't believe in, that a lot of people do. Keep God out of it. That could be a long and heated debate.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
We've been asking you, our listeners, what you don't believe in, which is commonly believed in.
And I'm gonna change tack a little bit here.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna break into new territory. I think I'm gonna have a go at somebody that's texted in.
Oh dear, careful.
Stephen from Bury. Hi Frank, average speed cameras. I said that I didn't believe in average speed cameras. I think they're the modern TV licence detector van. Average speed cameras have caught thousands on the M60 near Stockport, where the speed limit is 50 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Stephen Bury. Well,
Name them.
I live near there. I don't know you, but I don't think you know thousands of people. Stephen.
Oh, he's getting nasty.
Thousands. Come on.
Stephen's been kind enough to text in. Have
If
a
he
bit of...
texted saying, I know 3 people, I might have given him a bit of ground. But
Maybe he's read it in the
thousands-
local press.
Oh yeah, the South
The local
Manchester
press.
Reporter. Or
Like that,
something.
just to fill up, they probably listed it, all of them. Well, yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I don't.
We've had Daisy, our producer, is featuring quite a lot on this show, just
Yeah.
noted. And Daisy said she doesn't believe that igloos are warm inside.
Yes.
And we've had a text in from Keith, not our Keith, another Keith, who says, "I made a charity igloo 2 years ago and the temperature difference inside was 15 degrees higher than outside. I did fail to catch any fish as it was on my lawn. Google it, Southwater Igloo, to see it. Take care, Keith."
Oh, lovely. I like the take care element. Built on his lawn. You see, what he could have done is had a hole in the corner and caught worms.
Yeah.
And then caught fish with those. He just a step back down the food chain. You don't have to give up. Just
Absolutely.
step back a little bit.
Perhaps he was tired after his igloo building and he just felt a bit defeatist.
Yeah, I
Give him the
imagine
benefit.
it's. I mean, do you do it with gloves or without gloves?
Igloo building?
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be quite manly to do it without gloves, wouldn't it?
That's
It'd be
it.
like one of those blokes that has snowball fights with his kids with just no.
with the
no
red
gloves.
raw hands. I hate them.
I think they're
Red
Dads
hands.
that think they're legends.
they're
innit?
very big mitten wearers, the Inuits.
Yes, they are.
Because if you're making your own gloves, you're not going to do individual things.
Yeah.
Forget about
I'll
it.
just do the mittens. I've got other stuff to do.
Yeah,
I've got
just-
socks to make
Just,
after this.
oh,
That's what I
Dad,
think.
can't we have No! No, now get inside. It's too hot out here.
Paul says, I don't believe Jose Mourinho is really Portuguese.
Interesting, controversial.
And when he gets home, he speaks in a Geordie accent with a tin of special brew.
I'd like to believe that. I'll tell you what I don't understand, and someone will probably explain this. For years, I got quite proud of the fact when I started calling foreign people Jose and calling them Jose. I thought, oh, yeah, that's sophistication. And now everyone calls him Jose Mourinho.
Right.
Now, what do Portuguese not have the?
I don't know.
Are they sure? Oh, Sandy
No.
War is giving me the thumbs up. That's correct. They have no in Portugal.
Oh.
I think I've seen it on the pavement in Lisbon. Daisy, our producer, also, can I say, doesn't believe in sleepwalking.
I love that.
I'll tell you what I don't believe in. I don't
What?
believe that anyone has ever, at any time, approached an actor from a soap opera in a way which suggests they actually believe that that character is a real person.
What, when you hear them saying, oh, people keep coming up to me saying...
Yeah, people say to me, why don't you leave Deirdre alone? I get a lot of that. You don't. That's never happened to you or anyone else that's ever been in a soap. That is something that you've invented to make it sound like you're such a good actor. You convince people that you really are that character, but you are not. I'm not saying you're not a good actor, but that has never happened. Stop saying it. It's one of my views. Also, I don't believe it takes two to tango. When I first moved down, I got my own place, first time in Birmingham, got a bedsit. I had an album by Astor Piazzolla. Do you know him?
No.
He's a accordion player. Plays a lot of Argentine-based music. I used to tango on my own to him on a regular basis. So stick that in your South American pipe and wiggle it.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. I'm with Alan Cochrane and Emily Dean.
Morning.
That's it. I left it like I was going to say something else, but I didn't. You can text us on 81215, by the way.
And they have.
Yeah,
Oh
we've been
my, they
talking
have.
about things you don't believe in that a lot of other people do believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I said
sleepwalking.
that I didn't believe in average speed cameras, and people have been.
You've been
up and
firm.
on.
You've been very firm about
I
it.
have been firm about it, and I'm now faced with Sandy has printed off a story. about
Sandy War has stepped in.
She
printed
came in
off
with
a
that
story.
piece of paper like Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah,
About-
she's the woman with the facts.
Over
you see.
3,300 people have been caught speeding on one of Scotland's busiest trunk roads. But now I feel a bit like a creationist that even in the face of this empirical evidence, I'm still saying, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Because we don't know that this is right, do we? This could just be a news story that is propaganda on behalf of the average speed camera people.
We don't know that this is right. Oh, this is giving me an insight into what
How
Mrs.
many
Cockrell
people-
has to deal with.
How many people were caught
3,300, it says.
in Scotland?
Yeah, and like 200 grand worth
quite
of
a lot,
fines.
Al.
It is quite a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a lot for them
I'd
to
have
write.
thought, in Scotland,
Nobody's met them all.
surely 90% of them were drinking and driving.
Bang.
Minimum.
That is so astute.
Racist.
Frank 208, Simon from Oxford. I don't believe a swan has ever broken a man's arm. Bring me the swan and the arm for proof.
That's a good point.
Well,
Wow.
you need to speak to Helena Bonham Carter, as pictured in today's paper, wearing a swan hat.
I thought she was picked up wearing a sling.
That's unlike her.
Broken
Yeah.
arm.
Some of you may know that the swan is my second favourite creature on the earth.
We've also had an email in, quite a lengthy email, which I really like. Hiya, Frank, Em and Alan. I never believe that people who read books uber fast are really getting it. Do they enjoy, remember, or really digest any of it? Is that why a writer slaves over his keyboard for months or years so someone can speed read their masterpiece? I bet they're missing out big chunks. I'm a slow reader because I like to savour the stuff, which is why I read. I remember you saying it takes you a long time to finish a book too. I'm reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Even the title takes 5 minutes to get through. The thing I like about that is that I had to stop what I was doing and really concentrate on reading that email. So
he's achieved that.
It's great. Well done, Julie.
I bought Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and I read it in probably 10 minutes. I mean, the amount of it which I was able to read before I thought I don't want to read this anymore.
Yeah.
But it's one of those books I feel I might have another crack at.
Right. Yeah.
So I like the sound of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think I've read the start of the same book.
I like the look of it. It's a good book to be reading on the tube, as opposed to Men Who Hate Women and the Women Who Love Them. That's not a good look.
No, or what to expect when you're expecting.
Oh, yeah. That's not a good look for me.
Genuinely, this may be pushing the boundaries, but I saw a woman in a very low-cut top reading a book saying how to do well in job interviews.
That can't be true. Are you sure that wasn't a seaside postcard?
Absolutely true. It happened, and I thought, if I tell people this, they'll think I'm some kind of horrible misogynist or sexist. But it was great. It was really
Did you
funny,
just rip
really
it in half and say you don't need that, love?
Exactly. It was one of those months where you've done it. Don't
You
worry,
see, the
love.
trouble with that is what you really wanted to do was take a secret photo, but if you were caught taking a secret photo, who's going to believe it was for comic purposes?
Oh, my God, that would be awful.
Oh, this is like when pre and post political correctness worlds collide.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
Frank, we've had some more texts in about things people don't believe in,
Yes.
which you've been talking about this morning. Mike says, "Hi, Frank and co. I don't believe in jet lag. You're just a bit tired."
I think, okay.
Controversial.
I think I've
Controversial,
had
that one.
jet lag, but I don't want to argue with Mike when he's in this kind of boisterous mood.
Catherine has emailed, hi Frank Cockrell and lovely Emily. I don't believe that people who have absolutely no control over how loud they snore, staying in university halls, and I know the girl in the room next to me does it just to get on my nerves. My wife thinks that I snore. She thinks...
You don't believe it?
I occasionally wake up in the middle of the night to a punch in the ribs.
I have had that. I have thought... Because I've snored about 3 times in my entire relationship with my girlfriend. And when she's told me, I've always thought, I bet I didn't. I bet she just woke up in the night, remembered something I said in 2004 she didn't like, hit me, and then had to come up with the old snoring excuse. Because you don't know if you've snored, do you? Have to absolutely take their word for it.
No.
Yeah. It's
a lot of trust involved with snoring.
Too much trust, some might say.
Frank Simon Evans says, "I once knew a guy who didn't believe in badgers. He thought, as he'd never seen one, that it was a trick or something by David Attenborough in the BBC Wildlife Department."
Now, I spent 9.5 weeks in Canada and never once saw a moose.
Careful with that period of time.
9.5 weeks, yeah. There's a film about it.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
And that was the disappointing sequel, 9.5 Weeks in Canada.
Exactly. And I never saw a moose. And they all kept talking to me about moose, and I was thinking, you haven't got moose. It's a tourist thing. It's like when Scottish people tell Americans that haggis run around in the Highlands.
Do they?
There's no moose.
I used to think that there was only English as a language, and all the rest was like that. When you went to Italy and stuff, when you walked past, it went, and when you went round the corner, he's gone. We can talk normally. But I don't know if that's
Frank, can I talk about my holiday?
sex addiction. I don't believe in that.
I've been wanting to talk
Sex
about my holiday.
addiction.
Don't you believe in that?
No. If Hitler had said, "Sorry, I'm a violence addict," would you say, "Oh, what a shame, it's actually an illness"? Rubbish.
Frank, I've been wanting to talk about my holiday all morning.
Okay, I do it.
I've kept it in, out of politeness, but I've got a lot to say. I've been to India.
Lenny Henry was really brilliant as Othello.
What?
You don't believe it?
I still don't believe it. I must have read 10 reviews that said he was brilliant, but it can't be right, can it?
I think he must have been.
He did get good reviews.
Fantastic reviews.
What has that got to do with my trip
India.
to Mumbai,
I don't believe in
Delhi?
India.
Why did Bombay become Mumbai?
Funny you should say that, Frank, because I have started calling it Bombay now. because all the locals called it Bombay. It's very uncool to say Mumbai when you're over there. That's what tourists say, yeah.
Oh, really?
That's what tourists say. You have to say Bombay. I went to Bombay, I went to Delhi, I went to Jaipur, I went to Udaipur, which is part of Rajasthan.
Blimey.
Been around, haven't you?
How dare you? But it was quite a posh trip. I was being hosted, is the polite way of saying it.
Being hosted.
Don't make me say it was kind of a freebie.
That's all right. It's allowed. It's part of your job, isn't it? As what do you poppadoms do you make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the hotel that I stayed in...
Can I ask you a question? Why?
Yes.
I don't like those lakes. You know the fat lakes that you get in poppadoms?
In a poppadom.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
What they should be is they should be concave. They should look like a cyclist's helmet.
Yeah.
And then all the fat would run off the edges. Instead, they have those
fat
the
lakes.
lakes. Yeah.
Really, it's turning them over, isn't it? That's what you're suggesting there. Rather than going concave, convex.
Yeah, but I get mine in a stack.
Oh, right.
So if you turn them over, you just run it on to the next one.
I made naan while I was out there. They were lovely.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
I hope you wore a bonnet.
But the hotel that I was staying in was so posh that they laid on the services of a butler. I know, Frank.
Wow.
A dedicated butler. He was amazing for my entire stay there. Santander. He was lovely.
Huh?
Spanish?
No.
Santander.
Indian.
Right.
He was called Santander.
Was he?
Yes, I could
Did
never...
he used to be called Abbey National?
He was bought out.
Did you insist on the butler thing when you agreed to this job?
No.
I thought there might be a Santander clause in your contract. All right, so he was an Indian
Yes,
character.
He was lovely. He was very devoted, though. A bit too devoted.
I'm picturing him
Right.
with a turban with a jewel
Disney
and
turban.
a plume
Yes.
emanating.
Really?
You could be on the right lines there.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
That's what you want.
Frank,
And dedicated.
well, a bit too dedicated, because the first morning I woke up and I heard a trickling water, and it was Santander standing next to me pouring my tea.
Oh.
Oh my God, the shock of my life.
Don't like the idea
Say
of
he
waking
was filling a zinc bath at the side of your bed. Would Madam like to step into this?
He wouldn't let me do a thing.
Oh, wow.
He'd
Is that a
say,
euphemism?
well, he'd say, let me iron that dress. I'd say, no,
No.
Santander, I can't let you do that.
Santander.
He'd say,
You out of your mind?
he'd say, no, madam, please. Please, it upsets me to see you do it. I mean,
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
so I said, okay then.
Yeah, I don't want you getting upset. Go on.
I didn't want him unpacking my things, so I drew the line there.
Yeah.
I need some privacy.
Well, also, it's a security thing, isn't it? You don't want to get back to the airport and they say, did you pack these bags yourself? And you say,
No, Santander did.
And you don't want him preparing food with the feather in the hat, unless he covers it in one of those elasticated shoe covers that one sometimes has to wear at the swimming baths.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, earlier on Absolute Radio, we were talking about my butler.
On Absolute Radio.
Yes.
Was it?
This was... I should say I don't always have the services of a butler, much to my chagrin.
No,
But I did briefly have that whilst I was over in India.
sounds brilliant.
Santander.
Yeah.
And Santander, as we were saying, he would run my bath, he wanted to unpack. He was just always there. I had a red buzzer by my bed, and I just pressed for
You
Santander.
sure that wasn't the chambermaid?
The help button.
Yeah, you got to watch pressing red buttons over there. You're going to offend a lot of people.
He was there within 2 minutes. If you pressed it, I would say about
I wonder
20
what he
seconds.
did in the meantime.
Well, that's what I wondered. Was he just in a cupboard?
No,
Can I just ask you?
I bet he had a pool table like the fireman. That's the way to feel. If you're on call, you want a pool table, do you?
Yeah.
For me, you're not going to get through many frames with me around.
And if you had to make a quick note, did he take the feather out of his turban and write with that? That would have been brilliant, wouldn't it? Did he really have a feather in the turban? Have you made
There
that
was no, I don't know if there was a feather. There was ceremony. They wore them. That's a more formal thing.
Yes, there's a jewel.
Yeah, exactly. But when he's
Brilliant.
unpacking for me and ironing my clothes, I sound terrible. It's awful.
Can I just ask,
Yes.
like, logistically, when he runs
Yes.
your bath, does he then say, I'm going to leave you now for a while, madam? Or do you have to say, OK, go on? Out you go.
Why would I put on that pathetic voice?
Well, why not? Do what you like.
But like,
Got a bottle.
is it not slightly uncomfortable? Because I feel a bit uncomfortable if people are too like. I don't like it in hotels when they say, "Would you like me to carry your bags for you?" And I think, no, I could carry my own bags. I'm a grown up.
The reason you say that, because you don't want to give them a pound when you
And
get.
let me tell
I've
you,
got such
you
a
have
bad
to leave quite a
reputation.
big tip when you've got a butler, and you put it in an envelope. They can't, because they'll refuse it. I said to Santander, "Can I leave you something?" He went, "No, madam, no." I mean, he
See, I would have took that as final. Oh, that's
Okay.
very okay, fair enough. Well,
Great.
No,
Thanks
here's
for
a
the bath.
hearty handshake.
He said, your thanks is enough, your pleasure is enough. I mean, it was so lovely.
Oh.
So what you're meant to do, though, your thanks isn't enough,
No, of
actually.
course not.
Oh, really?
What you're meant to do is leave a significant amount in an envelope.
I'm desperate
for
to know
him.
how much.
So I'll tell you after the show.
45 pence. 45 pence.
Well, I mean, over there.
yeah,
But like,
exactly.
over there.
It could.
A new travelogue starring Frank Skinner, over there.
Did you have a Ponkawalla?
No. I encountered a Triwalla, though. I wanted to have my photo taken with him, but he didn't like me. Anyway, so Santander...
A Ponkawalla's the one, you know those that pull the big, they have
Yeah.
like a big fan and they pull a string and
Yes.
it keeps you cool.
Oh, no.
But Frank, I
I had a
got...
Ponkawalla once, telling me his father was a heating engineer and he was a bit of a rebel. Just went against him.
Frank, I got so
That was a
lazy
lie.
with
So that was a lie.
Santander.
I've never
Or was
had-
it a lie?
I've never had a big fan in my bedroom.
Oh, my
definitely a
God. Oh,
I've never sat under a big fan in my bedroom, ever.
Frank, it's bad the
Gorgeous.
first
I
time.
know, I'm actually, I'm polishing it. That's what I'm doing. Can you believe it?
We should move on.
We should move on. Shall we have music and then come back to India?
Yeah.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Anyway, meanwhile, in the bedroom with Santander, although not with Santander, because this is when I realised how lazy I'd got, Frank. And I'm worried about even sharing this with you, because I know you get class war about Ask Jeeves, so I don't know what you're going to say about this. But I was lying in bed. Don't panic, it's clean.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, I really do with reading a book. I just fancy, I always like to read before I go to bed. And I just thought, I can't be bothered to go into the other room to get my book. I can't be bothered to go into the drawing room to get the book.
Yeah.
So
Red button?
well, my finger, I thought about the red button, and then I did feel guilty. I thought, I can't ask him that. So you know what I did? I've never done this. I opened the bedside drawer, and I thought, I'll just read whatever's in there.
Gideon's Bible.
No. The autobiography of the chairman of the hotel group I was staying in.
Really?
I read 3 chapters of it. It was actually quite interesting.
Really?
Yes.
I'd have pressed the red button. If I'd had the choice.
But it made me... How lazy is that, Frank?
Well, I once, in Greece, I stayed in a villa, not as posh as you might think, that was owned by Boris Johnson's dad.
Oh.
And when you walked in, there was a book on the table. I thought, that's a bit unusual. There's a book on the table, and it was his dad's autobiography. So, read this. Yeah, his dad was... His job description of his dad is adventurer.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, which sounds like something that Vauxhall might have brought out in the 1970s, doesn't it? The Vauxhall Adventurer.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
What else?
Well, I'll tell you what else, Frank. Firstly, I do want to discuss the Scream, because I don't know if you heard... Did you hear that?
Yeah, I
this
can
week?
only apologise for that. I always do that about midway through Hungry Heart.
It was the Springsteen brings it out, doesn't it?
No, but it sold for... It was 74 million it sold for. To some kind
How
of a
much?
record. Yeah. 74 million.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, we're talking about how much I left in my butler's envelope.
The Scream is, in case you don't know, is a painting by Edvard Munch, which I've always thought would be a great name for a breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Oh, a nice bowl of Edvard Munch. Of course, I suppose, of the artists, Francis Bacon has cornered the market on the breakfast-based names. Sorry.
But, I mean, it's much loved, this painting.
It is.
Much
Especially
revered.
by sort of adolescents really like the Scream.
I was going to say, it's the Catcher in the Rye of the art world.
Yeah, it is. It's teenagers really like
Yes.
it because I suppose they always have that internal scream.
Catcher in the Rye is more sociopaths and killers, isn't it? Isn't it found in the houses of... Or is it just could be that there's a lot of copies of Catcher in the Rye around. So
no, it's a rite of passage 15-year-old boy book, isn't it? But this painting, I've always found rather babyish. If I may use an art term there.
I think the character doing the screaming looks a bit like the cockerel.
All right, yeah. It can sometimes do a bit that.
No, but not your scream, but the face it does look like a sort of it looks like you. When you did that face, and it really did look.
It does look like you, Cockerel.
It does. Imagine if the Cockerel had, say, bought a jumper and then 3 shops further on saw it £5 cheaper.
Oh,
that would be the expression.
I wouldn't be a picture of the scream, it'd be the incandescent with rage. That's what that would be. It'd be a different face.
But you see, would that be his expression? And this is my issue with the scream, with said scream. People, stop doing the scream, Cockerel, it's actually scaring me. People don't do a perfect O when they scream. It's anatomically incorrect and inaccurate, and I won't have that in art.
Well, I don't know. I've got a doll at home.
Oh dear, extraordinary beginning to an anecdote.
And she does that perfect O
Oh.
scream. I'm terribly sorry. Shall we move on? And
I can't, actually.
Oh, can you not move on? Oh, what do we do now, then? This is quite difficult.
I saw somebody on the tube the other day on the escalator stairs who, you know, I don't know if it's goths or emos or carnies, but you know the kids that get their ears widened, where they have their ears pierced and then they gradually make the holes bigger and bigger.
Like a big black disc thing.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool, but I'm not sure.
I've got one on the back of my neck, comes up about every 3 months.
What?
That's what my blackhead I tell you about last week. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
It looks like a hole in you.
Well, it does when I've finished.
Oh my god. Anyway,
sorry. I have an Inuit sitting on my shoulders, fishing into where my blackhead used to be.
This kid on the train had his ears widened, and then he'd taken the earring bit out.
Oh, left them flopping.
And so it had drooped, but honestly, his ear looked like the scream. The hole looked like the mouth of the scream.
Brilliant. He should have the whole ear tattooed so that it looks exactly like the scream.
Well, he's got to think that, 2 ears on his head, that's, 150 million?
2 ears
74.
on his head, and he's still rolling along. Yes.
Is that a real song?
Well, I think it's 3 wheels on my wagon. It's the original. Yeah, I think I quite like that. I'm all right with the scream.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Oh, I'm more a Rembrandt girl myself.
Oh, come on.
You?
No, they all look like John Sargent, and I like that in a painting.
Once again, you've got them too close to the heaters.
Frank Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Frank, we were talking about things we don't believe in earlier.
Yes.
Extraordinary examples came up, from fainting to speed cameras. Paul Duffy says, I don't believe in democracy. Neither do the 60% of Londoners who couldn't be bothered to vote. Close quotes.
Like that.
Voter apathy.
I think that's a text from Ben Elton.
In 1984?
Yes, only just come through. There's something wrong with my iPhone.
When you said you didn't believe in fainting, someone has emailed saying that they fainted forwards and broke their nose. This was definitely not something of my choosing to happen. Note to self, when fainting in future, fall backwards. Well, it's a good tip for life, isn't it?
I would, or you can get one of those helmets that the batsmen wear. So if you do go, I think he was just after attention. Is it a he or a she?
I think it's a she.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah, Charlotte Tambling.
Charlotte Tambling. See, it was a pun on tumbling, wasn't it? She'd do anything for a prank. Charlie, I call her. Charles, they call her en France.
Oh. So
yes.
Before the screen was sold the other day for 114 million or something, the highest price ever paid for a work of art was $106.5 million paid for Picasso's Nude, Green Leaves and Bust, which I've never heard of. Nude, Green Leaves and Bust.
Sounds like my bedroom.
It sounds like a book by Lynn Truss.
It's actually my screensaver.
Is it really?
No.
Oh.
Actually, I'm my screensaver.
Of course.
That's a whole other story, of course. Yeah, it's... I feel that people are switching off because we're talking about art. Am I right? I had a terrible moment last week. I realised last week how much you two protect me from the outside world. because Kerry Godliman was on last week. It was absolutely lovely. And at one point, she was reading the text and she just said, "Oh, look at this one. You are boring." And I realised I live like Kim Jong-un, that you keep outside criticism from me. And the whole show, it nagged at me. And I'd say up to about... Well, it's still there.
Yeah.
I can still feel like an arrow in my shoulder. So I just want to take this occasion to thank you two for not telling me all the nasty texts. And for the people who send nasty texts. Try magic.
Yeah.
You'll love it. So, coming up is Mark Crossley, and you can download the Not the Weekend podcast, which is us again, talking. Might be boring, might not. We'll see on Wednesday. You see, it's nagging at me. I can't let it go.
Thanks, Kerry.
I don't know why I brought it up again. Well, I can't blame her unless she made it up. Just to get at me.
No, she didn't. I read it as well.
Oh, Alan.
Well, thank you. Of course, it might not have been addressed to me. It might have been addressed to you. Oh.
It was all of us.
No, I think it was me. I felt it was me. I know it was me, let's face it. Anyway.
Don't do this to yourself.
No, it's too late. So, if I bother to come back next week... no, if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we will be back next week. And that's about it. What do we do next?
We say goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, OK. I knew there was a word. Yeah. Mumbai. Oh, no, now I'm on call.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.